For all its glory and grandeur, this estate is not shy of its challenges, just as it is proud of its achievements.
It is a very well-organized community. The population is not very high. Infrastructure is improving, but the important part is that really this is where I would say like the decision makers, business community, and all those people reside. But it is not a snobbish community, I must say. It is one that is interactive, that is responsive.
We have seen also several dwellings. Whether the bylaws have been altered or not, I'm not sure. Or people are bypassing the bylaws. And whether the county is allowing them, we are not so sure.
But affluence is no stranger on these streets.
If today one could go for a plot like this one, I would say it would be about 30 times more than what I bought.
For about 15 to 20 million, one should be able to acquire half an acre.
Area code makes its journey to the fourth largest urban area in the country to meet the people, explore the experiences, and witness the change that has accumulated in the richest neighborhood in Nakuru town. Take the trip with us as we highlight Nakuru's most expensive neighborhood in this week's episode of Area Code. We are heading to what is about to be Kenya's newest city. Nakuru has just received the green light from Kenya's Senate to elevate its status from a municipality to a fully fledged city. It's a historic vote at the floor of the Senate that took place on the 3rd of June 2021, transforming an area that has for the past 117 years been a focal point in accessing Kenya's Rift Valley region. Nakuru received its township status in 1904. Back then, European settlers preferred living in the area because of its favorable terrain and rich agricultural soil.
I can only read into the minds of the people then, in the early 19th century. And I think it's good to know that, of course, you look at weather, you look at location, you look at soils, you look at centrality in relation to other places, and also geography, in other words, the terrain. So here you have almost everything you can imagine. If you're thinking of the Rift Valley is here, you have your 5 lakes within Nakuru County. You have soils that can grow almost anything. Here in Nakuru, we grow coffee, grow tea, we grow wheat, we grow barley, grow maize. Everything you can imagine is actually grown in Nakuru, except maybe miraa and coconut. So everything else you'll actually find it here.
It would, however, take another 48 years before that status would be elevated into a municipality. In 1952, at the height of the state of emergency in Kenya, Nakuru officially became a municipal council headed by 7 members of the municipal council, all of them white. But the town truly sprouted in 1900 as a result of the railway station being constructed there. It would grow over the next 30 years to have nearly 200 Europeans and slightly over 600 Asians who settled there after construction of the railway line. It's often argued that the term White Highlands was coined atop the hills of Nakuru overlooking the Menengai crater. Many Europeans would rush to settle on the hilly areas of the town where the climate was conducive to grow coffee and other agricultural products. That hilly area would adopt the Swahili name Milimani soon after Kenya got its independence. Today, Milimani is where the who is who in Nakuru's cosmopolitan scene resides.
Milimani is the best spot for residents in the town, and most of the affluent people, you'll find them in Milimani.
It's a reputation that the residents of Milimani wear like a badge of honor. Nearly everyone you meet here tells you the same thing. The estate is an exclusive area meant mainly for those seeking seclusion, serenity, and prestige.
The environment in Milimani, if you look around, you will see mature trees. The temperature here is a little lower than downtown. The estate is clean. There are functioning hygiene services like collection of solid waste and so on. It is planned, it's fairly well planned.
Milimani is an estate for people who are, at least people who are able to, who can afford, because you'll find 90% of the residents of Milimani are not tenants, they are property owners. And therefore you'll find most of the owners are elderly people, people who have worked, people who have doing good business, people who are above the survival level.
Among those above the survival level is the area governor, Lee Kinyanjui, who has been a resident of Milimani area for the last few years. The long-time politician forms part of a group of tight-knit community who seclude themselves on the hilly estate, away from the hustle and bustle of Nakuru's city life.
It is a very well organized community. The population is not very high. Infrastructure is improving, but the important part is that really this is where I would say like the decision makers, the business community and all those people reside. But it is not a snobbish community, I must say. It is one that is interactive, that is responsive.
It's a status that has been carried over from Kenya's colonial days. Milimani area in Nakuru is where Nairobi's first female mayor is believed to have owned a house before being elected to the Nairobi Municipal Council in 1934. After the collapse of her first marriage, Lady Gladys Helen Chomley became known as Baroness Delamere after she married Lord Delamere as her second husband in 1928. She became the first female mayor of Nairobi in 1938 and had to relocate from Milimani area in Nakuru to the capital city to take up her new role. Lady Gladys Chomley died on the 2nd of February 1943 after serving 3 terms as mayor and is currently buried at Soisambu in Nakuru County. But Lady Gladys Chomley's legacy lives on the streets of modern-day Milimani Estate. Back then, no Africans were allowed to live in Milimani, but these days, the estate is almost entirely occupied by Africans who have transformed the area significantly. Samuel Kanyoro is a businessman and long-time resident of Nakuru County. He made a fortune in the town and has earned the right and privilege to own a 4-bedroom house in the leafy suburbs of Milimani.
Milimani is a high-class area, it's a high-zone area, and of course it's designated as a high-class. It's actually the senior-most estate in Nakuru as a town, as a town, and of course it's controlled by the planning department of the municipal that time.
He bought a parcel of land in the area back in 1996 and took nearly 5 years to construct his house in an area that back then only a few dared to reside in.
Back then we didn't have neighbors. In fact, the buildings around were not there. I was like the second, third person within this area. Of course, we had many other houses, government houses in Milimani, but not very many.
Indeed, in the 1990s, government agencies and officials identified the area as lucrative and began settling in Milimani, although the surge in numbers as is witnessed now was yet to be fully realized. Samuel says he does not regret making this neighborhood his home.
You'll be surprised, most of these decisions are guided by the friends you have, the class of people you want to interact with. As a businessman, usually you want to be identified with people who do business with you. And so I felt most of my friends, most of my colleagues in business were staying in areas like this one. We have estates like Section 58. But I chose this place because, one, it's very near the town. Two, its security is first class. There is plenty of water in this estate.
So you will find the regional commissioner, for example, stays in Milimani. You'll find the governor perhaps lives in Milimani. The district commissioner's residence will be in Milimani. Institutions like the general, the level 5, General Nakuru level 5 hospital is in Milimani. The Kenya Medical Training Institution, churches and so on are in Milimani. So quite a bit of the property in Milimani belongs to government and other large institutions. And this is legacy, is the legacy of the transition from the colonial times to independence.
It's a transition that has made Milimani not only very lucrative, but also very expensive.
It still is good, but now it is getting more populated.
When we come back from the break, we explore how the landscape in Milimani is affecting enterprises located in the area.
And there's no other comfort that you find better than at home. So we try to invite the spirit of at home in Paprigano, and we've been very welcomed in the neighborhood.
When you attract high end, you also attract high spending. So it's a very positive thing that has also generated into attracting major investments.
And we also find out how land prices in the estate is driving up commercial and residential value in Nakuru's most exclusive neighborhood.
I'm sorry, here you cannot get a house of 50,000. Rent here will start from 80,000, 100,000, 100. In fact, we have a friend who is paying 150,000 for a similar house here.
We want to retain the character of Milimani as it is. We will not allow high-rise, we will not allow commercial sort of activities. And I think this goes a long way to explain the issue of urban planning.
For about 15 to 20 million, depending on which part of Milimani the property is, one should be able to acquire half an acre.
Mahendra Shah has been a resident of Nakuru's Milimani Estate since 1975. His family came to the town in the mid-1960s to start the Londra Limited company that was exclusively tailoring garments in the region at the onset of Kenya's independence. The company, operating in Nakuru's central business district, developed a niche in making garments for women and children locally at a time when clothing for both women and children was entirely being imported into the country.
At that time, things were relatively easier and better because the market was there. You know, most of the market, there was a lot of importation, and the government were bringing in controls to support the local industry. Initially, I think in mid-60s, around 67, 68, the government brought in controls more or less totally banning of importation of garments into in the country. And so the local industries were encouraged, and they kept on doing this expansion, and a lot of garment factories came into existence in late 60s, early 70s, went on up to towards the early 80s.
But the thriving textile business in the country could only last so long. Eventually, the government lifted the ban on importation of fabrics into the country, leaving local textile industries vulnerable to competition from cheap imports.
So the controls were removed sometime in late 90s. So the importation started to come, even the second-hand clothing started to come. And that affected the industry over next few years. And in the process, the local industries could not compete with the imports.
Londra Limited was among the textile companies in Nakuru that went bust due to the new imports. But that has done little to discourage investment in the area. The Kipepeo School is among the landmark institutions in Milimani area. Focused learning has been an element at the school which has been in existence for close to a decade now. The school's director, Miheso Musindi, developed an idea to have integrated learning among abled and children living with both mental and physical challenges in the area.
We have the inclusion program, whose main function is to give children with learning difficulties and disabilities access to everything that any other child could have.
The school, located at the heart of Milimani Estate, incorporates learning and physical development for all children, with 3 therapists, 5 special needs teachers, and 2 psychologists. Kipepeo offers an environment where learning is holistic despite the challenges some children may face. At one of the therapeutic learning centers, physiotherapy is ongoing for a grade 1 pupil.
1, 2, 3.
These sessions occur once a day for the over 10 special needs pupils in the facility, while the others either play or have lunch.
5.
The session continues for those who need it the most before all the children resume learning in the same classroom.
And our idea is to make sure that these children are not handled on the side, where we say, because you have a disability, we are going to put you in a certain corner. These children are included in each and every aspect of any other child's life here in school, be it on the playground or in the classrooms. And they receive that, our aim is to give them the support to be able to access the curriculum as best as they can.
On the other side of the estate stands the Paprigano restaurant. It's a social area that wants to tap into Milimani's exclusive clientele.
The intention of Paprigano and the vision of Paprigano is to give people a comfortable place and good food. So we tend, and if you, like you can see behind, we try and make it as comfortable as possible where you can come and just relax the whole day. And we pride ourselves in the environment where we are very close to nature, so that we have a lot of trees and very few shades that are made of stone or anything.
The natural environment at Paprigano is one replicated in the entire Milimani area. The neighborhood has one of Nakuru's best forest covers, making the climate in the estate desirable for its residents. But perhaps the most profound identity Milimani has is its good infrastructure. Nearly every area in the estate consists of well-tarmacked road networks and clear drainage systems. The estate also boasts of having well-defined walkways and cycling lanes.
In the past, if you wanted to walk around, sometimes the roads were not aligned to that, and lighting. So one of the programs we really want to have, more so as we move towards the city part, is to encourage people to walk. You know, this idea of everywhere you go, you're taking a taxi or driving. So make our infrastructure in Milimani walk friendly. So, and I'm sure if you go there during the early mornings, you'll see many people walking. We now have walkways, and we want to expand that to almost everywhere. And I think this is really the sort of environment you would want, where the live, work and play kind of concepts is entertained.
But it's a concept that does not come cheap. Land prices in Milimani Estate have skyrocketed over the last decade and a half. This has mainly been attributed by the fact that the area has optimum security and constant supply of water.
I'm sorry, here you cannot get a house of 50,000. Rent here will start from 80,000, 100,000, 100. In fact, I have a friend who is paying 150,000 for a similar house here.
Property values in the past 5 years have changed astronomically. I think perhaps without much consideration to economic fundamentals. But however, having said that, I think for about 15 to 20 million, depending on which part of Milimani the property is, one should be able to acquire half an acre.
When you attract high end, you also attract high spending. So it's a very positive thing that has also generated into attracting major investments. Like you'll see, there are several places that are being sold and they are picked because of the growth of this city. And if you ask me, 10 years or 15 years from now, this place will turn to be a commercial hub. And we will have to look for another residential Milimani place. Because when you look at the business interests that have been here historically, they are doing very well.
It's a prediction that many believe could come true. Already, high-rise developments have begun cropping up in the area, causing a bit of unease among the residents of Milimani, who hope to keep the area as serene and tranquil as they found it.
We have seen also several dwellings on the Milimani side. Whether the bylaws have been altered or not, I'm not sure, or people are bypassing the bylaws, and whether the county is allowing them, we are not so sure, because there have been some cases in the court as well, and still those dwellings have come up.
Apartments or high-rise buildings cannot be built in Milimani. Generally, it's bungalows or small maisonettes that are allowable here.
We want to retain the character of Milimani as it is. We will not allow high-rise, we will not allow commercial sort of activities. And I think this goes a long way to explain the issue of urban planning. That areas that are designated for high density, let them remain as such. Areas that are designated for single units also remain like that.
For Area Code, my name is Timothy Otieno.